Good evening and welcome to Close Up. Yesterday was World Media Freedom Day. Leading up to yesterday's Day for the Media, a panel discussion with distinguished journalists was held at USP earlier in the week. The discussion was a chance for the public and journalism students to get an insight on how and what sort of challenges are faced by mainstream journalists. So what are the restrictions that govern the media, and how can a journalist provide accurate information to the public? We bring you highlights from that discussion and what World Media Freedom Day means to people.
Journalists who are at the coalface of political reporting, it is such a critical point in our careers as we prepare for the first general election in 8 years. For many journalists in the industry today have never covered an election, much less voted in one. I voted in one election and covered two, so I'm not that old. The scenery for media has changed dramatically over the past decade, as all of us who work in the media well know. And the media industry development decree has changed the way we work, sometimes for the better, sometimes not so much. And one of the major hurdles for journalists and media companies they work for is that there's very little tolerance by those in power of criticism, no matter how constructive the criticism may be. And if you hold a position that is contrary to the collective view or the imposed view, you must be anti-something or the other. An important question to ponder is what kind of journalists and media workers are being produced now? Are they journalists or journalists, barely rehashing press releases with little or no context or background? Are statements by leaders immediately taken as the truth, or are we subjecting the claims of all our aspiring politicians to fact-checking? On a similar note, as I wrote in my editorial last month, there appears to be almost no room for nuanced or reasoned discussion in public spaces, in which we can agree with some things but disagree with others. It seems like you are either with us or against us. Over the years, the term anti-government or pro-government has been thrown about with abandon. If you disagree with or seem to have a different view of anything our government leaders are doing, you are no doubt anti-government. If you like some of the policies of Bainimarama's government and you see merit in them, you must be pro-government. This rigid type of thinking has pervaded almost every area of our lives, and one of the consequences for us as journalists is that we have become afraid to ask what may be perceived as tough questions. When it comes to government regulation, my personal opinion is that I cannot accept any form of government interference in the work we do. But the reality is that these decrees have been put in place, and we need to find ways to work within them and around them. So the best course of action for journalists who want to be able to contribute meaningfully during this period is to keep ourselves informed about what the government is doing, about what's happening in government circles, and be able to look beyond the rhetoric of what we're told every day. No matter what our personal politics are, what the policies of our companies are, as journalists and media workers, we must be able to maintain professional solidarity with each other. An attack against one of us is an attack against all of us.
The terms of reference need to be clear to everyone. And I think the media, the editors need to address this issue seriously as to who is going to monitor, what their terms of reference will be. And it's obvious that you can't do much to oppose such a decree, but make the best of a sticky wicket, as they say. And therefore, yes, challenge. How exactly is this going to work out?
Well, they are controlled and they are inhibited. And I tell you this because I was in the newsroom when Namani was in the newsroom, and soldiers walked in and started removing articles from the newspaper. Now, those days have gone. We don't have to be running around looking for a new story for, down page 1 at 11 o'clock at night. Though things have changed somewhat. But I cannot tell you the profound effect that had. I went home shaking the first time that happened. I was not frightened, no, but I was intimidated. The first time I spoke publicly about this, I burst into tears. It was very demeaning and pathetic. And I'm not going to do it now, I'm over it. But I don't think the newsrooms are over it. I think that feeling is there.
I think having a monitoring unit, a media monitoring unit, really will not make a difference. We will continue to report the way we are, regardless of whether there is a count in terms of space allocation and all. But if MIDA wants to establish such a unit, they're most welcome to, but it really wouldn't affect us in terms of how we report.
The problem with Fiji is that we tend to clip the wings before the imagination takes flight. The first set of criticisms that I received when I took up the job was that MIDA is not independent, they're pandering to the demands of the government, and I'm a man who exercises reason. I said, all right, let me find a bunch of people who are going to be independent, deemed to be independent in the eyes of the public. Let me get a set of criteria that is benchmarked against international best practice. This is the European Union, right? And I said, let's do it, let's pull it off. And let me invite the stakeholders, the media, to have an input so that it's participatory, it's inclusive. I wanted to make sure that government did not monopolize this process. Went nowhere. So I'm really caught between a rock and a hard place, and no matter what you do, you can't please anybody. And I'm cool with that. Like I've said publicly, I'm friends with nobody, not interested in that kind of stuff. But on the other hand, I think one has to truly exercise reason and enter the protocols. When nothing is not good enough, that ain't cool. When somebody tries, I think people should rise above the occasion and say, hey, this is not working. Let me suggest something more productive.
Just because Mick Beddoes of Sambeto says we are, doesn't mean we are. We work very hard to ensure we do not breach the law. We have a continuing series of workshops by Nazar Shamim so our journalists understand the various decrees that affect us. We also have very strong legal opinion. This is that we are no way breaching the decree with our reporting on the PM and his proposed Fiji First. What have we been doing? What we have actually been doing is doing our job as a news organization. When thousands of people come out in places like Tavua, Ba and Lotoka to greet the PM and his famous blue bus, that is news, full stop. Nothing like that has ever happened in Fiji politics before. We make no apologies for reporting this.
But the state must always remain subservient to the citizen. The citizen must be able to access the state at all times as an abstract structure of redress. That's what the logic of constitutionalism is all about. And the state and the citizen are tied by the constitution as a social contract. So I'm just going to stick to the brief of media and definitely help an organization like Femling. I'm certainly hoping that something like the Fiji Media Watch comes on board and works with us. This is an interesting question, and I think this is the paradox of our times. We need to kind of exercise self-reflexivity and ask ourselves, why do we fear accountability? That's the brief that I'm very interested in. If we're fair, if we're accurate, we've got evidence for what we're saying, I say you say so. I had a publishers roundtable, Nemani will attest to that, where the Fiji Times came, a ton of other people in Fiji Times alluded to that kind of history of hefty fines and all of that, and I said, hey, I wasn't in power on that time, but I'm asking you to go ahead and publish things that might be unpopular, but if they are based on fact, you conform to the requirements of the Media Code of Ethics, I'll be the first one to lose a pound of meat, but I will protect you. And I've asked the Fiji Times to go ahead and do that. I'm very glad that Professor Narsi's articles are now being published. I don't necessarily agree with his analysis, but it's out there. And that's what needs to happen. Democracy is about a plurality of perspectives. Whether it's popular or not, my job is not about populism. I'm not a popular guy, neither is Maida, but I think the media ought to be able to publish these things. We need to have an ethic of discomfort. There will be things that we talk about that are not necessarily the most comfortable things. But at the same time, there needs to be an open access to information. As long as it's not defamatory, it's not salacious, it's not seditious, the laws are very clear. Please go ahead and publish. I certainly hope that Maida is going to be neutral, at least as long as I'm around. And if I'm fired, I mean, that's the end of the story, right? But as far as I'm concerned, I've tried to ensure that there is transparency in our dealing. If there is a complaint that has been lodged, I call for a full meeting, of the board. I need to have evidence, and we need to sort of adjudicate it on it independently, aligning with the laws of the land. I mean, this is not a decision that needs to be sort of made independently, and subjectively. You should be able to substantiate it with the provisions of the law at all times, so that any member of the public feels that if, either the Maida chairman or any other, representative of Maida has made a decision that doesn't do justice to them, they can actually scrutinize it. And they can appeal to something higher, which is the media tribunal presided by, a high court judge, and take us to task. You have that, and you should be able to practice that. People have yet to do that.
To ensure that those who have been given the privilege of ruling over us are held to account for their actions. Several governments in the last 3 decades have promised freedom of information but never made those promises come true. And I think it's something that we must pursue as a community. It is unfortunate that we have lived side by side in this country for over a century, but still do not fully understand each other. Another role of the media, I feel, is to ensure that the people of different communities understand each other's belief systems, their values, and come to respect and show tolerance to others in a way that has not been done before. We often hear politicians speak about it, but we see few practical measures taking place. And another role of the media, I feel, is in that area, to pressure authorities into making sure that there are systems in place which allow us to understand each other in order to build a stronger society.
Something I am clear about, though, is that everyone, including journalists, should support the electoral process, however flawed we currently perceive it to be, and try to do our part in providing enough information to make them as free and fair as possible. After the elections, it will be the work of journalists to give the democratically elected government the support of accurate, fair, and balanced reports of its decisions and activities.
The challenge of the media going into this election of September will be to continue to challenge our leaders, whoever they may be, on their policies to ensure that they are the best possible for our people. The challenge for the media is always to ask the hard questions, however difficult that may be. To take issue with promises given by political parties. To take up politicians on their proclamations that only their party can save this nation or save our economy or save the sugar industry or whatever it is that they promise come election time. It is not enough to accept that they know best. We are often told that governments will reduce taxes. The question to ask is, how will that be done? What will this mean for other things such as government spending? When we are told that the economy will grow by a certain percentage, it is our duty to ask how that growth will happen, whether that growth will happen responsibly, whether the Chinese will continue to destroy our mangrove swamps and take away our land. When we stop asking these questions, we fail to do our duty.
I think one of the things that a journalist should be able to do is to think critically, to be able to analyze, to be able to engage, rather than being the mouthpiece, being a proverbial sort of monkey who's regurgitating a ton of things. And this raises a number of questions about what are the implications of just merely reciting. When does analysis kick in? How does one analyze? How does one think critically? How, reading the world around us, reading critically, engaging, asking the difficult questions. And these are the things that I think, and being fair, being ethical, being balanced, making reasoned intervention, making an evidence-based intervention, exercising scopic reason. By scopic reason, I mean reason which is untroubled by perspective.
Coming up to the elections, we need our people to be able to make informed decisions on who they want to lead them. Unless, of course, that choice has already been made. Our people must be able to decide for themselves. But issues must be laid bare for them. And everyone must be able to have a say. Each political party, whether we support them, whether we dislike them, whether in Sanders' case we hate them vehemently, they should be allowed to have a voice within reason. That is all that we ask of journalists these days. And it's all that we ask of media these days.
Media freedom is for, especially from as a media person, the freedom to write stories to correctly inform members of the public who are the consumers of our information. We must have responsible and productive reporting, and to be fair to all, we must get all sides of the story.
Basically, media freedom has got to be, you must be able to speak your mind and say what you want. There's nothing else to it, really. What's freedom of speech if you censor it? It's not freedom of speech then, is it?
My best definition is being able to say whatever you want to say, criticise what needs to be criticised without fear of reprisals from anybody higher up. And I think it's a very important thing that we all have there. I think it's healthy for the people, wherever they live, to be able to put their hand up and say, hey, this is wrong, and exercise free speech. I really do.
It's important that on World Media Freedom Day we recognize the diversity of the media. We recognize that people need the space to be able to speak and articulate freely, and that media freedom provides not only the space for political leaders but for communities to be heard, and that should be done from a perspective of equity, safety, and that the diversity or plural media landscape needs to be enhanced. You can't just have one-way communication. I would hope that there's an opportunity to look at the kinds of regulations that are affecting the media, including community media, so that in this transition back to parliamentary democracy, we're going to open up and see more opening up of spaces, and that through the opening up of those spaces, more people will be heard, including women, including young people, persons with disabilities, the persons from the Sogi communities, because you can't just talk about freedom and not be inclusive. So our message for World Press Freedom Day is certainly one that we continue to say over time, that freedom to express yourself, whether it's through community radio, public media, or in public spaces, is critical.
Well, as an employer, I believe that media freedom is the ability for individuals to express their opinions freely, but to do so in a responsible manner. I think it's important for everybody to think of all perspectives and cover that when talking openly and publicly. I think journalists need to at all times accept the responsibility that they have to the public for objective reporting.
To me, the media freedom is freedom to voice yourself, to say something without any stopping from anybody. That I think your freedom of speech.
Media Freedom Day, I think it has to a lot of people it has different meanings. Personally, it is for at least for me to be able to have a safe environment to work. You know, if you're able to work in an environment that you can freely express yourself, freely do your work without any intervention from your bosses from within or from outside, that's media freedom. And for you to be able to, if you're able to do your work without those interferences or freely, then imagine, you being free yourself to be able to do your work.
Media Freedom Day for me focuses at least once a year on the importance of media, of the freedom of the media. I'm a passionate believer in freedom across the board, and the health of the nation really comes down in a lot of cases to the ability of that nation to understand what's going on within it. And that's what media does. It reflects back on the community, what the community is about. So from that point of view, having it free, fair, unfettered, yet responsible is very important for the nation.
World Media Freedom Day is a day that we look back and reflect on our work and our role as journalists, as watchdogs for the community. And I think today's walk is a good way to remember that we're not the only ones. There's a group of us in Fiji and around the world that are daily reporting on information and things that happen that matter to the people. So it's a good way to also say that say thank you to all our colleagues, because without them, it's this bonding that we create that also helps us grow and progress every day.
Media freedom means that unfettered press. Media should be free to report. Media should be free to do whatever they want to. They should not be operating under fear. They should not be dictated. Whoever is in power or whoever they are reporting on, they have a work to do, and media should be allowed to work freely, without fear, without favor. And what Fiji needs is an unfettered press. I know these are challenging times for the media. You have to take into consideration several circumstances. But above all, you must realize that you are here to serve the people of this country and not one segment of the society. And so it is very important that Fiji has an unfettered press, and this must be reiterated during this time.
It's being able to report what's happening without interference from anywhere. Freedom to see it as it happens, but it's also about finding a balanced approach, finding both sides to a story and giving a very well balanced summation of what's happening. Right? It's not one side nor the other, it's both, but being able to say it as you see it.
To report on anything they feel which people should know.
A wide range of what comes on the news and what comes on papers, and these are the facts that people have to know. And basically be open-minded on everything that you see and everything that you hear, because these are the things that we need to know.
Today is when reporters, the watchdog of society, can report responsibly.
Provides the public with true and balanced information.
Important news that comes out to the public, that's what is good about reading papers. That's what the media is there, right? You have to know what's on in a day.
To me, free media means we should get all this information from even local or abroad to us to be accurate, honestly, so we can know what's going around within us.
Media is all about reporters reporting on information that are correct and accurate to our communities.
What media freedom means to me is that journalists have the opportunity to report on anything and everything they want, but as journalists we need to make sure that we report within the codes and ethics of journalism. So all in all, I think it is about having the opportunity to report freely, but at the same time we need to ensure that our reporting is very balanced and very accurate.
To really express ourselves and have the voice of the people in the media.
And that's the end of Close Up for this evening. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact us at closeup@fijitv.com.fj. Thank you for joining us tonight. Till next week, good evening.